Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to take a look at a pretty basic but very effective team for the Master League Premier Cup. It's a pretty simple APB team where you use Gyarados to try and lure out the Fairy type so Dragonite doesn't have to see it, and then you can try and set up either Excadrill or Dragonite for the sweep in the end game. This team worked out really well for me and I gained like 300 elo in about 7 to 8 sets, but these games were also played between 22 and 2500 elo, and you might be wondering, what the hell were you doing at the 2200 elo mark? Well, I went all in to try and win Callum and Toast's Battle of Spice. You can find a link to the video in the description. I will also remind you at the end of this video, because don't go now, but after this video I will definitely recommend checking his video out as well. But for now, let's take a look at these battles. There are also some very good ones in between. Going into the first game, we lead into a Gyarados. If this has Dragon Breath, we can stay in, but it has Waterfall, so we want to swap out to get into Gyarados immediately. And they respond with a Shadow Snorlax, which is not the best response in the world. This is a pretty neutral matchup. And then they go for a Body Slam, I think pretty much immediately. It does take the exact same amount of time for the Gyarados to get to an Aqua Tail as it does for the Snorlax to get to Body Slams. So I do try to, as I'm practicing my one-turn counts, I try to go for the CMP here. It's always very difficult with one-turn moves against one-turn moves to count the moves. So I am very proud of this CMP tie. Getting this Aqua Tail off, grabbing the shield, and I'm thinking if I can get the switch advantage here, get Dragonite onto the Waterfall Gyarados instead of Excadrill, I'm in a very good spot. So I'm hoping I can get to 2 more Aqua Tails here, go for the first one right before they get to another move, trying to CMP them once again. I'm not sure if they just didn't throw or if it was just a little bit before they got to the Body Slam, but they do farm us down, and now we can bring in the Excadrill. I'm thinking that maybe Dragonite Upper Shield can sweep this game just fully, so I'm basically just sacrificing the Excadrill, saving my shield advantage for Dragonite. And then bringing it to Dragonite onto Gyarados, and then they have a Dragonite of their own in the back, so go for this Dragon Claw to do big damage to the Dragonite. I could have probably overfarmed a little bit more because I know that they're going to be able to live it and get off Dragon Claw of their own. I don't think it's in much down range, so I do think I have to shield this. Also, I do need to land a Dragon Claw on the Gyarados, or at least do some more Dragon Breath damage to it, because the Rock Slide only does about 54%. So landing this Dragon Claw puts the Gyarados into Rock Slide range. They get off this Crunch, which will be close to taking out the Dragonite. Maybe they should undercharge this to get off more energy, but that would have been risky. Can we get this Rock Slide off on the Gyarados? Yes, we can. And look at the HP on this Excadrill as we get off this Rock Slide. 1 HP and a dream to start off the video. Next game, lead into a Haxorus. Of course, gonna swap out into Gyarados immediately, but they're staying in to go for the Breaking Swipe, presumably before dipping. Breaking Swipe lowers our attack, and then they dip out into a Gyarados. Meaning, because they went for that Breaking Swipe, we're not going to be able to win switch advantage. We can go for this Crunch to do a little bit of damage to the Gyarados, but then they can go for their own Crunch, and I'm pretty sure they threw this immediately. And as I say, it takes the equivalent of 6 Mud Shots for the Gyarados to get to an Aqua Tail, so we can throw 6 Mud Shots and then go for the CMP on the Aqua Tail with this Rock Slide, which should take out the Gyarados, because as I say, it goes about 54%. Now we can bring in the Dragonite. My opponent goes for a bit of a mistake, I think, to bring in the Haxorus immediately, because our switch timers were misaligned, so that switch timer wasn't up here. This is a very difficult decision. Do we shield the Breaking Swipe? I decided not to. I'm not entirely sure what the correct play is in that situation. But then they bring in a Metagross, and we are just completely hard counted in this game. Go for the Superpower, hoping I can get to another one. Thinking that if my opponent lets this go, I might just be able to mud-shot down their entire team. So I think it is the correct play for the opponent to shield this Superpower. Maybe they should have shielded the first one, but maybe they were afraid of the bait with Dragon Claw as well. Then they go for a move. Don't really want to take it. I'm definitely expecting the bait, but don't really want to take a medium ash either. So we can overfarm, go for another move. I want to come out of this matchup with as much energy as possible, so I don't have to take so many counters. So we can go up to almost 100 energy, go for the Drill Run. Maybe I should have undercharged this to get more Mud Shots onto this Metagross, but I thought the switch timer was up, so it wouldn't really matter. But now we can go up to the back-to-back Rock Slide. We do need to land 2, 1 to grab the shield, but unfortunately, it takes 5 counters for the Haxorus to get to a move, and it does win CMP, so they're going to be able to get off an Ice Clash here. Is it enough to take out Excadrill? Yes, it is. So, unfortunately, we lose that game. Next game, lead into a Togekiss. They swap into a Garchomp, Dragon Tail Garchomp immediately. And Gyarados is a very good response to a Garchomp. They go for move after 5, meaning this can only be a Sand Tomb. I would definitely recommend at least threatening the Outrage, because if they go up to 7, I have a very difficult decision to make. We can't go up to right before they make it to another Sand Tomb. It is 5, then 4. It is 5, and then still 7 for the Outrage, for a Sand Tomb plus an Outrage. But here they go for another Sand Tomb, which we can definitely take. But I want my Gyarados to leave this matchup with as little HP as possible, but not risk losing switch advantage, of course. So I let them get off another Dragon Tail, and then we take them out. And now we're going to come out with an Aqua Tail and only give the Togekiss, I think, 2 charms worth of energy. The Togekiss needs a lot of energy in order to overcome Excadrill, but it's just a good thing to practice. They do 1 more charm, and then they bring in a Machamp, and we bring in Dragonite. You can win this 2-shield even if you take a Rock Slide from a regular Machamp. From a Shadow Machamp is a little bit more dodgy, but we can take a Rock Slide, so I no-shield the first one. It's only a Cross Chop. They baited me. But I don't really want to take a Cross Chop plus a Rock Slide, and also I don't really want to leave my Dragonite with too much HP. Ideally I want one of these Pokemon, I don't care which one, to leave this matchup with as little HP as possible. I don't want to take a Rock Slide plus a Cross Chop, so I do have to shield up this one, but now I'm just going to place them in a HP range where I'm comfortable bringing in my Excadrill, let them get to more counters. Yes, bring the Charge Move as well, bring the Rock Slide. No, don't bait me, take me out. I wanted them to take me out, but whatever. The switch timer comes up, so I can just bring in my Excadrill, and because the Togekiss hasn't gotten too much energy, this is gonna be no problem whatsoever. Get off the Rock Slide, and the opponent concedes the match. Bit of an RPS game, but also some cool tricks with the waiting and just kind of hoping the opponent would take me out. Next game, lead into another Haxorus. They swap into a Metagross on our Gyarados safe swap. This is not a good response to a Gyarados. Not even when you're running Dragon Breath. This is still a good matchup for Gyarados. Go for the Crunch. Does big damage to Metagross. We can take 1 move, definitely, even if it's a Psychic. I have seen some people run Psychic on Metagross. It is a Meta Mash, so we can take it, and then we can outpace to another Crunch. I'm not entirely sure an Aqua Tail is enough from this range, so go for the Crunch. Right before they get to another one, it takes 8, then 7, 7, 7 for the Media Mashes. So we can shield this move. Of course, we want to get switch advantage to get Dragonite onto the Haxorus. And now we can overfarm to right before they get to another move, and then go for the Aqua Tail, which should be enough from this range. I do leave my Gyarados in a bit of an awkward health range, which is not nice, because now they can waterfall my Gyarados all the way down with their Gyarados. And if they have Outrage on their Gyarados, this is not ideal. Although an Outrage doesn't really take out the Dragonite, it only does about 72%. I say only, it's still a lot, but it's not a one-shot, so we can live it. Let it go. They bait with an Aqua Tail, and then they bring in a Dragon Tail Garchomp. And once again, they throw after 5. I would definitely recommend going up to 7 to threaten the Earth Power here, because that would make my decision so much more difficult. Now I can't just no-shield the first one, because obviously I don't want to shield the first Sand Tomb. They are going to be able to get to another one, and then go for a Drill Run, and they should be 3 away from the next one, so we can't go up to right before they get to it, and then go for another Drill Run. One of the reasons why I always try to overfarm as much as possible is because occasionally you run into opponents who miscount or don't know their counts. So by overfarming, you make it more difficult for them to keep track of counts, and then they just let you get to another one, and then we can take off the Garchomp, and then we get this Dragonite onto the Gyarados once again. It takes 8, then 7 for the Outrage, and because they landed an Aqua Tail earlier, it's only 7 for the next Outrage, but they're still not going to be able to get to an Aqua Tail plus an Outrage, so it's just a safe shield to shield the first one, and then we can just farm them down. Next game, lead into Florges. They swap into a Haxorus. We have a very good response in the Gyarados. Gyarados is a lot better of a response because it takes neutral damage from the Breaking Swipe, so I bring in the Gyarados here. I think this is a game where I misplay quite a lot, but this is a very important detail, I think. If I let them get off their Breaking Swipe first, before I get off my Crunch, I have to make a decision. If I no-shield, they might be able to shield, and then they might be able to counter me down before I can take them out, because the Breaking Swipe does so much damage. If I shield, they might just be able to no-shield, and then get switch advantage. So if I go for the Crunch before they get off their Breaking Swipe, I force them to make a decision first, and then I can make a decision afterwards. Because they no-shield, I can comfortably no-shield as well. Whereas if I had let them get off the Breaking Swipe first to do this amount of damage, they might have just no-shielded, or they might have just shielded the Crunch and then taken me out. I let them get a few more counters. Of course, I don't want to let them get to another Breaking Swipe, but just to do a little bit more damage to my Gyarados, to leave me with a little bit less HP, to give the Florges a little bit in less energy. Now I can bring back in the Excadrill, and this is where I start to misplay crazy. A Moonblast does more damage than you want it to on an Excadrill, So generally shielding the first one, because Florges don't, like, they generally don't bait against an Excadrill, does make a little bit of sense. But then I start to wonder, why are they staying in? And then when they shield this move, why are they shielding? Are they ABA weak to Excadrill? But no, they are thinking, because what I said in my top teams video, if you're running the Florges guard jump core, which I think is a good core, you want to try and get shields down, because guard jump does a lot better when shields are down. Because when you're running Mudshot and you swap it in and the Dragonite is a little bit too slow, you can just one-shot the Gyarados or the Dragonite and then take it out. And now they're going to be able to get to an Earth Power on my Excadrill as well, because I expended 2 shield in the Excadrill Florges matchup, which was a huge mistake. Don't do it. Save your shields, because there might be a guard jump in the back, and also it doesn't do that much damage. Definitely a mistake. Next game, lead into an Excadrill. I will definitely be able to win CMP here, which is absolutely huge in this mirror match, of course. But it's always a bit tricky, because there's always the possibility of the opponent trying to catch, and there's always the opportunity for me to try and catch. It's a very tricky matchup to play. I don't really like to throw immediately. I like to try and throw an unpredictable timing throw after 9 here, so they should be at back-to-back. And as I've said before, people like to throw in there back-to-back. So I catch it on my Gyarados, hoping it's a drill run. Some people like to throw rock slides in the mirror match with Excadrill, which I don't actually hate, because either the Excadrill shields or they try to catch, and if they try to catch, you want to throw the rock slide. They go up to 4 over, so they should be 1 away from another move on the Excadrill. Of course, always takes 5 for the Excadrill. And then they swap into a Swampert. We can't get to an Aqua Tail right before they get to a move. And then they go for the Hydro Cannon. I'm thinking they have a Switch Lock Swampert, which doesn't do that much damage to a Dragonite. So I can just farm them all the way down, like get a lot of energy, basically for free, because these Hydro Cannons are doing basically no damage. I'm okay with just taking yet another Hydro Cannon. As you can see, this Hydro Cannon doesn't really do a lot. Is this Swampert even fully maxed? I don't actually know the CP for a fully maxed Swampert. These Hydro Cannons do not look like they're doing all that much. But the Excadrill is 1 away, as I say, so I do need to be wary of that. They bring in a Shadow Dragonite, swap into an Excadrill to try to catch a Dragon Tail or Dragon Claw. They do 1 more Mudshot, and then I catch the Rock Slide on my Excadrill instead. And then they should be 5 away from the next one. And I do win CMP, so we can go for the CMP. This is kind of bullying at this point, but yeah, that's also a little bit fun. Going for the drill run, and then go for the Rock Slide against this Shadow Dragonite. And this will bring the Dragonite low enough to where I might be able to superpower BM them as well. But I feel like after making that catch and like going for the CMP, I might have been exposing my opponent for a little bit too much torture. So I don't want to go for a BM as well. Maybe in another game. Yeah. Am I too mean? I don't know. Next game lead into a bit of a core breaker in Mamoswine. This is definitely not a Pokemon I like to see. The way I like to play this is go for the 2 shields and then try to go for the CMP at the end to leave the Mamoswine energy dry and in a range where Gyarados can farm it down afterwards. So after landing 1 drill run, I like to start going Rock Slide just in case they try to catch, because they're not trying to catch on the Steel type, obviously. If they try to catch, it's most likely on a Flying type, and yes, they do catch what they thought was a drill run in one of these games, and it's a lot of fun. As I say, I like to go for the 2 shields. It takes 665 for the Avalanche, and Excadrill does win CMP, so we can't go for this Rock Slide on the CMP on the 3rd Avalanche to either take them out or grab the 2nd shield. It takes them out. And then we can bring in Gyarados onto this Conkeldurr. We can outpace them, but I go for a bit of a mistake here. Try to throw right before they get to the Stone Edge, but I throw 1 turn too late, so they get up the Stone Edge first. Luckily, it doesn't take me out. Bit of a mistake by me, but we can't get off this Aqua Tail on this Conkeldurr. Doesn't do that much damage. But now they bring in an Excadrill. I absolutely love this play from my opponent, trying to Mudshot me down with an Excadrill, come out with a lot of energy. Luckily, we do make it to an Aqua Tail. And then they get 6 Mudshots, I think, on this Excadrill, which is really uncomfortable because I don't have a move on my Excadrill. So I have to bring in my Dragonite, take 1 Rock Slide. Now there should be 3 away from the next one. So I'm gonna try to catch it on my Excadrill. My opponent patiently wait and then go for the drill run instead, going 1 over the move. So there should be 4 away from the next one. Gyarados or Dragonite does win the CMP here, so we can't go for the CMP with the superpower. It takes 8 for the Stone Edges for Conkeldurr, but it takes 8, 7, 7, 7 for the Dynamic Punches. Because they threw a Stone Edge earlier, they should still be 8 away, so we can make it to a superpower. I think a Dragon Claw would have been enough, but I think superpower is just a safe play to take out the Conkeldurr as well, and we take that game. Next game, lead into the worst core breaker. I hate this Pokemon. It has Waterfall, we swap into Gyarados, and this is just terrible. This is so bad. They go for a move after only 6, so this can only be Disarming Voice. It takes 6/6/5 for the Disarming Voice and 8/7 for the Moonblast, so we can't take it. And then they bring in a Florges, a second Fairy type, onto my Gyarados, and this is just a terrible time. And as I said earlier, I like to overfarm a lot, very often, just in case you run into an opponent, occasionally, who doesn't know their counts, or miscounts, because now we can get to an Aqua Tail on CMP, very lucky of course, Gyarados does win the CMP, but now we can leave the Florges with not a lot of energy, and we get off all the energy on Gyarados. And now we can bring in the Excadrill, and instead of going for a Drill Run, they go for a move immediately here after 5, so it's only a Disarming Voice, which we can definitely take. I could go for 5 more, and then go for a CMP with Drill Run, or take another Disarming Voice, which doesn't do that much damage, save all the energy on Excadrill, and then bring in Dragonite to farm them down afterwards, which is exactly what I do. Get energy everywhere. And now the Primarina does have Waterfall, so it's only going to be able to threaten the Dragonite with charge moves. Dragonite actually has an semi-alright matchup against Primarina, Waterfall Primarina, in the 2 shields. So we can overfarm a lot. Of course, I don't want to debuff myself too quickly and then go for the superpower, which is single resisted as opposed to the double resist from Dragon Claw. They do shield it. Maybe they're weak to Dragonite in the back. They make it to another Disarming Voice here, which of course we're going to have to shield. And then we can overfarm a lot. They should be 6 away from the next Disarming Voice. So say it's 6/6/5 when you're running the Waterfall variant of Primarina. So they should be 3 away now. We get the superpower off. We might be able to farm them down. Otherwise, I'm going to go for the CMP. No, we farm them down, come out with a lot of energy, they bring in an Excadrill, we go into our own Excadrill to debuff or to reset the debuff on Dragonite, go for the second Drill Run. This should take out the Excadrill. Wait, was that a Mud Bomb or a Mud Slap? Oh, they're running Mud Slap, what the hell? Doesn't quite take out the Excadrill, so we can farm them down with Dragonite instead, and that is a good game. Lead into a Shadow Tyranitar in the next game. What? It takes the equivalent of 10 mud shots for the Tyranitar to get to just a move in the Brutal Swing, but they try to catch a move on Togekiss, which I would definitely not recommend, because even if you catch a Drill Run, you still have your Togekiss locked in against the Excadrill, which is a terrible position to be in. So we get off the first Rock Slide, then get off the second Rock Slide, and at this point, what do they bring in? We take out the Togekiss, now they bring in another Charmer. I go for the Drill Run immediately, which was a bit of a mistake. I should have gone for one more Mud Shot, but whatever. We can make it to another Drill Run on this Primarina. I really want to let my Excadrill go down here so I can bring my Gyarados in on this Charm Primarina without it being switch locked. It's not a good matchup, but it is a lot better of a matchup than Dragonite's matchup. Takes 8 for the first Disarming Voice from this when it's running Charm, so we can take this, or we can shield this up, and then just keep Dragon Breathing away. I think it's 7 for the second Disarming Voice, so we can up to 6. We go up to 7 actually, and then go for the Aqua Tail. I think I didn't know the counts of Primarina back then, so I thought it was still 1 away here. But so I let them get to move, but at this point it is low enough to where I can Dragon Breath it down safely with Dragonite. So we can just save both shields save the last shield for Dragonite. I'm a little bit afraid of a Stone Edge. I wasn't quite sure of the counts on Bite. Tyranitar, it takes way too long to get to a Stone Edge. It takes, as I say, 20 turns for it to get to a Brutal Swing. So yeah, Stone Edge is just a ridiculous amount of energy. Can go up to the back-to-back Dragon Claw, go for the first one on Tyranitar, and then go for the second one on Primarina. Because it's so low, we can take it out, and we overcome a Waterfall Primarina once again. Or a Charm Primarina this time. We also overcame a Waterfall one bit earlier. Next game, lead into a Metagross. Go up to right before they get to a Mesh, wait a turn to make sure it's not caught. They try to catch, but then we can just go for the Rock Slide instead on this Dragonite. It is 7, the equivalent of 7 Mud Shots for the superpower, so we can throw 2 more Mud Shots and then go for the catch on Gyarados, and it is the superpower. They went straight for it, and because they debuffed their defense, not only do we catch the superpower on Gyarados, we also get to farm them all the way down. A little bit mean maybe, but that was a lot of fun on my end at least. We can make it to a crunch as well on this Metagross, which is coming in. Sorry, I'm having trouble speaking today. I don't know what's going on. That will bring them very low, and we even make it to another Aqua Tail as well after getting the defense debuff. My opponent is probably not very happy right now. I'm planning on doing the Peekaboo, where I bring in my Excadrill and then go straight for the swap, but the swap doesn't go through, or maybe I pressed it too late, so they do get off the Earthquake, which we have to shield, and then I bring in a Garchomp. Garchomp can be a little bit uncomfortable even in the one shields if they have Sand Tomb with the Mud Shot, but if you go for the Drill Run before dipping, they are only going to be able to get to one move, or they can make it to 2 Sand Tombs, but that doesn't matter because it takes 12 Mud Shots for them to get to a Sand Tomb plus an Outrage. So they're not going to be able to bait and then get to an Outrage, so we can just shield the first move, which ended up being the Outrage, farm them all the way down, and then farm down the Metagross as well. And that is a good game. Next game lead into another Haxorus, and then we swap into Gyarados. They counter swap with Togekiss. Not a good Pokemon to see, but also nice to lure it out. Go up to 7 charms to throw as late as possible to make it as difficult as possible for the opponent to keep track of energy, whilst also making sure we get off both Aqua Tails before they get to an Ancient Power. So we get off 2 Aqua Tails to put them into range where 1 more is enough to take them out, and then they throw the Ancient Power immediately. Meaning it's 7 away from another Ancient Power, so we can overfarm a lot with Excadrill. They also get the boost, which it seems like the Togekiss gets the boost in every game I play against it, but yeah, not complaining, that's just part of the game. Go for the Rock Slide right before they get to another Ancient Power, and now we can apply a lot of pressure to this Haxorus, because a Drill Run does quite a lot of damage to it, so that they're either gonna have to take a lot of damage, or expend the shield. Now we can bring in the Dragonite, and once again, I'm faced with this difficult decision. Do I shield, or do I not shield? I'm not entirely sure what the correct decision is. I do shield it this time, and then they bring in an Excadrill. You can go straight superpower in all even shield scenarios against Excadrill with Dragonite, so no point in baiting here. Also the attack drop from Breaking Swipe shouldn't make a difference, as we let them get to 1 Rock Slide, and then we're gonna go for the superpower right before they make it to another one. They call the Dragon Claw, realize the game is over after taking the superpower, and that is a good game. We overcome a Haxorus, yay. Next game, lead into a Mamoswine. Not the best lead to see. They go for a move after 6. This can only be an Avalanche. Takes 8 for the high horsepower, but we still have to shield it because it takes so much damage. And as I say, I like to go for the 2 shields here. Go for the Drill Run. I do like to land at least 1 Drill Run. Make sure I land 1 Drill Run. So be very diligent with waiting a turn to make sure they don't catch it when I'm throwing the Drill Run. But when I'm throwing the Rock Slide later on, I don't mind them catching at all, because that would be hilarious. So they go for another Avalanche immediately, meaning they fire away, and I'm not quite sure why, but I go for it after 4, right before they get to it. Maybe I was planning on trying to catch this time. I do like going for the CMP, but they catch the Drill Run, or supposedly catch the Drill Run on Gyarados, but the opponent get absolutely debated. You caught a Rock Slide instead, and if you can catch, I can catch as well. You caught the Rock Slide, I catch the Aqua Tail. This is a very good time. And now we can farm the Gyarados all the way down. They will make it to a crunch, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we will come out with a lot of energy on Gyarados. And if they bring back in the Mamoswine, they should be 1 away from the Avalanche, so we want to throw the Aqua Tail pretty much immediately. They bring in a Dragonite instead, which is not ideal because now they save all the energy on Mamoswine, and they're also going to get some energy on Dragonite as well. I can't really bring in my Excadrill, I don't think, because it won't be able to outpace the Dragonite, so I bring in my own Dragonite a little bit too early, because now my switch timer doesn't quite come up, and now they can get to the Avalanche to one-shot my Dragonite, and now my only play is to try and farm down this Mamoswine, but they just about make it to an Avalanche, and this is of course gonna take out my 1 HP Excadrill. And that is a good game. Next game, lead into another Haxorus. Bad lead, but I actually was quite good at overcoming Haxorus leads. They bring in a Magnezone onto Gyarados, and you might think this is like absolutely terrible. I think this is very fine, because this is just an energy sponge for Excadrill. Now I can bring my Excadrill immediately to just farm the Magnezone all the way down, basically for free. They do go for another Wild Charge immediately, which I think is a good play to lower their defense, to give me as little farm as possible. And then they go for a Mirror Shot here to try and lower my attack as well, which is also a pretty good play. But Excadrill comes out with a lot of energy to start threatening this Haxorus. We go for the first Drill Run. which will either do massive damage or grab the shield, does big damage. Now you can bring in the Dragonite and they swap into an Excadrill. And once again, as I say, you don't need to bait in this matchup. You can just go straight superpower. So we let them get to the first Rock Slide before we debuff ourselves. We can take one, and then we're going to go for the superpower right before they get to another Rock Slide. This will, of course, take out the Excadrill if they no shielded. And at this point, I'm okay with lowering my defense and my attack because I'm going to start shielding anyways. And at this point, like with the Dragon Breath adding up, a superpower is still going to be enough to take out the Excadrill. So once again, go up to right before they make it to another Rock Slide, and then we're going to go for yet another superpower. But at this point, it is starting to get a little bit awkward, because if they catch a superpower on Haxorus, that is not going to be the best idea. They bring in the Haxorus, and I miscount and let them get to a Breaking Swipe to take out my Dragonite. But I might be able to shut them down. These counters are doing a lot, but we counter them down, and we come out with a Drill Run. And the opponent knows that they're going to have to take it, and they would one-shot the Excadrill so they concede the match. Last game, lead into another mirror match. I try to throw an unpredictable timing here. I think, as I say, there's a lot of viability to going for the Rock Slide, because if they are staying in, they're shielding, like always. But if they're trying to catch, they're catching a Rock Slide instead of a Drill Run. So maybe I should go for the Rock Slide instead. I think the second time around, there might be a little bit less of an opportunity for them to try and catch. They do try to catch. They are unsuccessful in trying to catch, and once again, this is just a bad play, I think. Because now you're just like, if you catch the Drill Run, it's still not a good situation for you. If you don't catch the Drill Run, I am just taking out an entire Togekiss and still coming out with a Drill Run loaded. I will win CMP if they bring back in the Excadrill, and they do have a move on the Excadrill bank, so I will go for it immediately if they bring it in. To go for the CMP, we do win the CMP tie. To grab the shield, and now they should be energy dry, so I am completely fine with letting my Excadrill go. I'm thinking the only loose con I have at this point is that it's double charm, so I bring in my Dragonite, and then it is double charm, so we can bring in the Gyarados on this Primarina, which is not a good matchup, definitely not a good matchup, very bad matchup, but a lot better than Dragonite's matchup, of course. And I didn't really care if I had the Gyarados or Dragonite on the Excadrill. It doesn't make too much of a difference. Go for the Aqua Tail, which is of course not going to do all that much. It takes 8 and then 7 for the Disarming Voice. I have been looking it up at this point, I think, before this battle. So they should be at 6 charms now, so we can make it to this Aqua Tail. Does just about half, so we can make it to another Aqua Tail. If this does not KO, they might come out with a Disarming Voice, but it just about takes it out. Now we can swap into Dragonite. The Excadrill does have energy. Are they at the back-to-back Rock Slide? I don't think we're quite at the superpower, but they're not quite at the Rock Slide either. So we can make it to the superpower to, of course, take out the Excadrill, and that is a good game. As I said in the beginning of the video, remember to check out Callum and Toast Battle of Spice video, link in the description if you want to see the monstrosity of a team that lost me 700 elo in one day. And also remember to vote for the most spicy team if you do indeed believe that mine is the most spicy team. If you don't believe mine is the most spicy team, it is completely okay for you to forget to vote, of course. Other than that, that was the last battle for today, and overall I think this is a very good, just basic team that works very well all the time. There are a few core breakers to it in Primarina and Mamoswine, but it still works very well. Other than that, fun fact of the day, Dragonite beats Shadow Mamoswine in the one shield because you win CMP. You're also very close to beat the regular Mamoswine in the one shield, just going straight Dragon Claw. Other than that, if you like what you see, or feel like you learned something, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.